Welcome to this webinar, everyone. Today we are going to be covering everything you need to know about trading reversal. Now, when it comes to trading reversal, it's a topic that everyone wants to master. Why? Because you want to get in at a very good spot to make those huge profits, right? You want to make sure that when you get in, things just boop, go, right? Or when you get in, boop, things just drop all the way to hell, visiting Lucifer, right? That's what you want to do when you're selling, right? But that's easier said than done, right? We all know that. In this webinar, I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to teach you everything I know about trading reversal. Okay, reversal is a very tricky subject, but if you master it properly, you will be able to make a lot of gains from the market. Okay, so who's ready? Let me know. Let's get started. Let me first, and yes, it's recorded, everyone, so don't worry about that. It's gonna be on YouTube. Okay, so let's have a look at the whiteboard. If I can just change my screen. All right, you guys should see my screen now. Okay, cool. All right, should see my screen now. Now, the first things first, if we really want to understand reversal, we first need to understand the buyers and sellers, all right? Because we need to know what exactly are we trying to reverse in the market, right? Things could be going up, things could be going down, but if we're trying to reverse something, there needs to be a catalyst for things to reverse, right? So let me take my drawing tool out and I want you guys to participate in this, okay? This is something that's taught by me from Naveen Prithyani. So this is very powerful. So pay very close attention to this, okay? I want you guys to participate here. Now, when we have a move up like this, move coming back down, a move continue the move, a move going up again, move back down, going back all the way up again. What's happening in the market? It's an uptrend, right? Things are going up. When things are going up, what are majority of the people doing? They're buying, right? Doesn't matter if it's hedge fund, retail traders like us, we're all looking to buy. Okay, now here's the question that I want you guys to, sort of answer. Where do you think the smart trader with a lot of money, where do you think they are getting in at? Do you think they're getting in with a lot of money here, pumping the markets going up here? Or do you think they're getting in here? Okay, let's say this is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Where do you think most traders with a lot of resources are pumping in their position? 1, 2, or 3? All of you guys are going to say 1. Yes, okay? So you guys are saying 1. And that's where most of the position are being pumped into the market, okay? So pay very close attention here. Let me just do this. Okay. If all of you guys are saying either 1 or 2, hopefully not 3, either 1 or 2, what's going to happen here? At that region, things are likely to push up further. Why is that the case? Right? Because we all know in an uptrend, if things are looking very bullish, we're probably going to pull back into an SNR, and things, and when the market pulls back to that area, things are going to propel, right? It's going to push up very quickly, very far. So having that said, if let's say we do another move down, same thing happens, right? The exact same thing happens. People are looking for the buy. Let's say they look for the buys again here. The next question I want to ask you is, when we're looking at a trend like this, where do you think most retail traders would get in? That's question number 1. Where do you think more uptrend positions are going into the market? Is it here or is it here? A or B? Let me know. Let me know which location are most buyers getting in at. Okay, B, right. I see someone, TechStar19 says B. And that's the right answer. It's B, because as the trend continues to show more evidence that it's going up, more retail traders are going to come in. Not just retail traders. I'm not trying to say that, only retail traders would join a trend as it's clear. The whole world is going to pile into an uptrend when the trend is clear. When it's safe, people are going to pile in, right? Doesn't matter if you're a hedge fund, doesn't matter if you're a retail trader. That's always going to be the case. So having that said, a lot of buying position is going to happen at B, this spot right here. Let's do this. If the buy goes up, and let's say the buy does not continue, and this happens, price crashes down like that. What happened to anyone who has taken their buys? If let's say their stop loss are not in place, let's say they are in this for a long position, and the only thing they're expecting is for the uptrend to continue, and the only information is they got in their buys right here. What do you think is going through their mind when things crash down like that instead of making higher highs? Well, I don't need the answer to that because I've been there, you have been there. You're probably gonna shit yourself, right? When things just crash like that. This is a situation in the market where we call people are trapped. Buyers in this area, they are trapped with their position. Initially, they wanted to look for a long, but when they went for their buys, things turn around, trapping anyone who has bought right here. When traders are trapped, there's two things they can do, okay? Number one, right around here, if they feel that they are on the back foot, if they feel their trade is wrong, they would just take a loss, getting out at a loss right here. That's option number one. Option number two is just purely holding on, just praying to all the gods out there, praying to, okay, I don't want to name any religion, but praying to all the gods out there, hoping that things are going to turn around, like everyone was hoping for Bitcoin to turn around in, 2020? That's not what you want to do, right? The fact that you're here means that you don't want to do that. Option number three, anyone who is trapped, the smart thing to do here is to reduce their loss. How do one reduce their loss? They would wait for price to come back up into this area, the same price they once bought before. Once the market reached the same price right around here, they would sell off their position as close to where they got in. And that right there, if everyone's doing the same thing, selling off their position right here, things are gonna crash. That's how a reversal is formed. Does that make sense, everyone? Selling at break even. Yes, that's correct. Okay, so essentially, again, for those of you guys who are not following along here, I want to repeat this one more time. Imagine, right, that you are looking at an uptrend, right? Only thing you want to do is join the uptrend, and when price is pulling back into a clear support and resistance area, you want to look for a buy. Okay, when price does pull back into a support resistance area, you'll hit the buys right there. Once you hit the buy, the only expectations you have is for things to go up further, right? You want price to propel further. But that's not the case here. Let's say if you took the buy and things turn around, you are in the drawdown, basically, right? You are in drawdown, your trade is in the red, you don't want to get out. What's the next best option? Next best option would be waiting for price to come back into the same area right around there. Once price comes back there, you would be at break even on your position, and that's the best area to get out before things start to crash. All right, and if enough people are all doing the same thing, anyone who's buying here looking for the buy, right, as price comes back up, they turn into the sell side, things are going to crash. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any question, just let me know, right? I see some of you guys are asking, Please come again. Yeah, just let me know if things are unclear. But basically, this is the whole idea behind it. However, there is a few things that you need to really pay close attention to when you're trading something like this. This idea of trap would only work if the entire market, they're all thinking about the same thing. They're all thinking about the buys. You know, see, things are going up here, going up here, going up here. People are looking for the buys. If you are in a market where things are just chopping, say like this, it's going to be very difficult, because in this situation, not everyone is thinking about the same thing, right? Some are looking for a sell, some are looking for a buy, and some are just standing aside, not even considering this trade, right? Because it's not clear. But if you look at this and you compare this with something that's just going up like that, you ask your grandma, you ask your sister, you ask your dog, you ask your neighbor, everyone is going to say, that looks like a buy, I would buy that on a pullback, right? It's only in those situations where if a trap does happen, okay, the release is what we call it, would be strong. Okay, so that's the main condition that you really want to make sure that you understand. This is basically a pattern that you're spotting in the market, but pattern itself, okay, I want to make sure that I get up close and personal to you guys. This is basically a pattern in the market, okay, but a pattern itself is not gonna help you be successful at trading. You need to understand the logic behind the pattern, right? So when I say you want to make sure that there is a trend involved, it's very important. You want to make sure everyone is thinking the same thing, and when everyone is trapped, the reversal is going to be much stronger. Okay, hopefully I have made that clear. So let's jump back onto the charts and let me show you a couple of very simple examples where you can very quickly get a good understanding of it. Let me just show you an example of a trap on Euro USD 1 hour time frame. Okay, now as we're looking at this market right here, I want to put your attention to this area right here. Right, initially we came from a move down, and then we sort of continue the move up. Right, this becomes sort of like a trend that's happening, and I want you to now focus on this area right here. As we are going up here, focus on what happens. We have a swing up, right, a pullback, a move up into this area, and then a pullback. Okay, every time we have a new higher high and a pullback, things just continue to launch. We see that here. All right, SNR uptrend, pullback, higher highs. All right, we see that here. Breach, pullback, SNR continue to make higher highs. Now we see that here. Push up, pullback, right? Not really holding their grounds there, and then things just continue to meander around, just continue to move a little bit lower. Now let's zoom in this area a little bit more. Let's say this is the area where people are looking for the buys. I want you to focus on the candlesticks here. We moved to the upside, we came down, little bit of a push up, and then close as a red bar, and then only we came back down. What you are able to see here is in the very little detail, we see buying action around these areas. That's an indication that someone actually took the buy. What happened to their buys? They essentially got trapped. Once that trap has happened, we have a move down. Remember what we were talking about earlier? As soon as a pullback comes back into that same area, this price right here, your reversal is going to happen. That reversal is what we call a release. Does that make sense so far? Is it clear? Some of you guys who are more savvy out there may look at this and you're wondering, hold on, if we're using the same logic here, we have a move up, pullback, another move up towards the upside here, another pullback into this little SNR, people are looking for the buys, correct? People are looking for the buys here. We see that, based on this support and resistance, we see that based on this green bar that came up, we see the crash happening here. So if buyers were buying there and they got trapped, what are we gonna see if price returns? Price returns, and then it's sold off. The problem with this is, how come? Why doesn't this go as far as what we see here? Because when it comes to reversal, we also need to consider how big is the reversal going to be. Is the reversal going to be 10, 20 pips, or is the reversal going to be 100, 200 pips? That's very, very crucial. Okay? The answer to that is not, we do not need to go far for that answer. Okay. Now, again, pay very close attention here. If, let's say, we, look towards the left just a little bit here, we are able to see a move down. We are able to see a downtrend coming in, and what's happening in a downtrend? Same type of situation. Everyone's just looking for a sell. All right, we have another pullback into this area, same location where everyone's looking for the sell. We clearly see that by these 3 spots. A rejection back down, and then a push all the way back up, like that. Okay, again, put yourself in the position of sellers. If you're selling, right, if you're a big institution that you're trying to sell the market, you're trying to take price down, and you're selling in all these 3 spots, and you see price breaching towards the upside like that. When that happens, if you want to get out of the trade, the very same thing would apply here. As price comes down into this region, you want to get out, right? You want to get out of your position. So what's actually happening here is we have an area where sellers are trying to release, and we have an area where buyers right here, they are trying to release. So this, in the very short term, becomes a spot where both parties, the buyers and the sellers, they're trying to release. Which means any position you take in this area here, doesn't matter if you're selling or if you're buying, you're in a very, very tight spot, right? Because both parties are fighting. Now, in this situation, why did the buy succeeded and why did the sell fail? So the answer to this is pretty simple, right? The answer to this is very simple. Remember what we were all talking about earlier. I don't want you guys to focus on support and resistance. I don't want you guys to focus on the SNR, the higher time frame, all the technical details. I want you guys to focus on the logic here. When we're talking about traps and releases, basically, we're talking about who's buying and who's selling, right? And if we look at this area right here, this is a move towards the downside, right? We know a lot of people are selling. Okay, let's just say 3 people are selling, right? 3 people are selling the market, pushing price down, and the way that price went down is pretty big, right? It's big and huge. That's what she said. Anyway, a lot of people are selling. That's the whole point, right? And these people are trapped. Okay, now remember that idea, remember that concept. On the buy side, the trap that I'm talking about is just this one tiny little piece green candle. It's very, very small. And I'm saying that this buyer is trapped. Do you guys understand now? In this situation, whose money is trapped more? Who has more money in the market that's trapped? Sellers. Hopefully you guys are saying sellers, right? In this situation, because there's so much selling pressure, we can clearly see it by all this move down. Of course, the buy, the release to move up is going to be a lot stronger. So in situations like this, you do not want to be in a position where you're looking at this and say, shit, that's a reversal and I'm gonna sell the hell out of this. It's not what you want to do. Okay, let the trend continues and then see what happens next. Because right here, if we really pay a close attention to the first example we were looking at, this is the part where I'm saying, all right, there's an SNR. We see buying action here, a breach to the downside. Okay, buyers are trapped. Let's look for our release around this area. Look at where the release actually stopped. It found problem as price reaches this region, this area right here. And we now know that at that same area is where sellers were trapped before, right? And see, there is going to be a reaction here, and that's where things are going to stop. So it's not simply, again, I want to get close and personal to you guys. Okay. Again, it's not simply about recognizing a pattern, right? It's really about understanding what are the buyers and sellers doing in the market and what are the interactions between them. And when we're talking about buyers and sellers, how strong are they? How weak are they? And what's important to consider and what's not important to consider, right? So does that make sense for this Euro USD example? Let me know in the comment section below. And let me go back to the charts if I can find my screen, and there we go. Okay, yeah, I see a lot of you guys are saying, the right answer, sellers. Very good. Okay, and if you guys are watching this and you guys are enjoying, make sure to, really like this particular video. And if you guys haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you guys could subscribe. Okay, I see someone asking about a scalping webinar. We'll do that later, all right? For now, let's pay very close attention to what I want to talk about here. Okay, cool. The next question that we will try to answer is, where do we use this idea? Where do we use this technique? Okay, I don't want you guys to come up, sit on your take your coffee in the morning, look at the charts, and then just try to spot reversal, everywhere. That's not what you want to do. When we're trading reversal, we want to make sure that we are focusing on two main things. Okay, we're focusing on the where and we're focusing on the when. Location and timing is super important. Now, that brings me to the next point here. Let me just get this. Okay, I'm gonna do an example on the sell side. Okay, so that it makes sense for everyone. Just look at the comments. All right, I'm gonna do an example on the sell side. So sellers. Okay, first things first, we make sure that everyone's dog, everyone's cat, hamster, fish, they see this, they know that we are in a downtrend. Okay, and they know that a pullback into a support resistance area, that's where a sell needs to happen. Okay, so everyone's selling, and then things turn around like that. When people are selling and things turning around, we know this is gonna cause a reversal based on everything I was just talking about earlier. Okay, the next question is, how far can this go? How far can that go? This is where you want to put things into context. Okay, because again, remember, everything I have just talked about so far, that's just a pattern in the market. You can come in, look at this, and you could say, what the hell are you rambling about here? Because this is just a head and shoulder, right? Are you trying to reinvent the wheel here? No, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Okay, it is a head and shoulder. It could be a cup and handle pattern, but I'm trying to tell you the logic behind it. Regardless of the pattern, I want you to now focus on the higher time frame context, the bigger context. If this thing here, right here, let me just remove this. If this reversal situation is happening at a much higher time frame SNR like this, okay, and let's say on a higher time frame, we are coming down from an uptrend like this, the chances of this going up is extremely high. Why? Because you're essentially using two things here. You're reversing a short-term downtrend. That's number one. The second thing is you're going with a higher time frame uptrend. So you have support, okay, from the higher time frame to look for the buys. And right here, you are trying to reverse trap traders. Reverse trap. Okay, this is gonna take forever for me to write, but there we go. We are trying to reverse trap sellers, and we have the higher time frame support. In this type of situation, the likelihood of the move going up is extremely high. Okay, which is why you will find situations where if you're looking for a trap, say around areas like this, it's less likely going to perform. It might come down deeper. So always make sure that when you're trying to reverse the market, you want to reverse it at a good location, okay? And you want to reverse it where the higher time frame is supporting your trend. Does that make sense, everyone? Let me know if that makes sense. Okay, so having that said, I want to show you guys something very interesting, which is actually on the Bitcoin chart. Let's have a look at a few examples from, very long time ago, because they all have the same pattern, I'd say. Yeah, I really don't want to call it pattern, but that is what it is. What makes a difference here is, understanding that it's a pattern, but you want to make sure that you understand why it exists and why it works. Okay. Now, if I just have you focus on this move right here, okay, and let's say we do not know what's happening here, right, and things are just coming down, okay. Let's get my drawing tool out, and let's say things are coming down. All right, this is the point where everyone's saying Bitcoin is a scam. Bitcoin is not gonna, it's not gonna last. It's just gonna come and go. It's you don't need to take it seriously, right? That's why all this sentiment is very bad, and things are going down in this this point in time, right? And let's say if we are all looking at this and we're all thinking about the same thing, we're all saying that let's just sell the hell out of this market, right? Let's just continue selling. We pull back, we breach down, right? So far, everything looks like we are in a selling position, right? Things are selling. Now, if everyone's selling, what are people gonna do as price come back into the support and resistance area? They're gonna sell, right? I do not need to wait for the comments to show, but as price comes back into the SNR, people are going to look for the sell, regardless in this area right here. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this area. As we move back up into that area, we have a strong move up. Let's say at this area, we see some selling action, okay? We do not see a move down, but let's say that everyone's looking at that spot and they have positioned their sell in the market. If price comes up, they have the limit orders in place. They're just looking for a sell, okay? Because like we have established earlier, if we're in a downtrend, price pulls back into an SNR, we look for a sell. In this similar situation, at this very clear SNR, if price pulls back, a lot of orders in the market is going to go off for the sell side, just because of the sentiment of the market, thinking that it's in a downtrend. Okay, stay with me here. So this spot right here is very crucial, because a perfect spot like that, which is supposed to go for the downside, is not holding and things are moving up. So if I remove my drawing one more time and I put your attention to this area right here where people are supposed to sell, see what's going to happen. If people were to sell and they got trapped, I want you to see what happens next. Further. We came down, touched that area, okay? And then that's exactly the low of Bitcoin in 2020. Things start to flew. Okay, does that make sense? This is a different type of trap. When we're talking about trap, there's a few different versions. So let me show you exactly what I mean by that. Version number one is where things are all very, very visible, which means we see a move up, move up, move up. We see, in terms of the candlestick visibility, we see one more swing towards the upside and then crash. We can all see that clearly. We see the buying action. When that happens, we know a reversal is going to happen here because anyone who's bought, they are trying to release right around there. Okay, that's the easy one. That's the one that I explained earlier. Now, another situation in the market is same thing. We have a clear uptrend, Okay. Again, I want to make sure that everyone understands this. I want to make sure that everyone understands this. For a trap to happen, you need to make sure the trend is super, super clear. Everyone's thinking the same thing. Okay. Even this bug right here is thinking the same thing. Anyway, let's go back to the charts. Okay, same thing. Things are going up, right? Uptrending market, and let's say pull back into this SNR. Everyone's gonna look for the buys, right? Buys is gonna happen. Everyone's gonna look for the buys, and then things just continue to crash. In this situation, anyone who thought that the buy would happen here and have positioned their buys to happen there, they are trapped. Does that make sense? The reason why we do not see a buying action taking place here is because the selling momentum is way too strong to prevent any buy from actually pushing up. Any buy that's happening here, all the sell momentum is gobbling them up, pushing price all the way back down. That's the reason why it's not visible that we see a candle or a couple swings towards the upside. That's the situation that's happening in areas like this. When you have a clear support and resistance, you do not see any move up, things crash down, that's what's going on. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, again, fire emoji. Let's change things up. Let's put the emoji with the sunglasses. let's use that. Okay? That's what's happening. So even if you do not see any price action, all right, of a move up like this, when price do pull back into the same area here, that's where you want to expect a release. Okay? Just because you don't see any move up here does not mean this area is not going to hold. This area is still going to hold. You just need to make sure things slows down here with a huge rejection, and then things would propel towards the downside. Okay, making sense? Any questions? Yeah, cool. All right, so if we use the same idea here, and if we look at the Bitcoin chart one more time right here, we can clearly see that's what's happening, right? A clear SNR like this, a very, very clear support and resistance in what looks like a short-term downtrend. People were supposed to sell here. Okay, but the buying action, buying power is just way too strong and things just push towards the upside. When that happens, if price pulls back into the same area, that's where a release is going to happen. Does that make sense? If you guys knew this in 2020, and if you guys put 10% in this, look at where price is now. Right? Now, we see the same thing happening over again. Now this time back in 2023, right? Hopefully you guys can see this. We have a few things in, we have the few things that I talked about earlier where you first want to make sure you are in an uptrend. In this case, we are in an uptrend, right? And in the very short term, are things pulling back, right? Things are pulling back and it's looking like a downtrend, correct? If we just really just focus on this part here, it just looks like a downtrend. You know, everyone's just looking for a sell. This is where I believe there is well, there's so many things happening with the crypto I can't keep up, but this is where the selling happens and it looks like a clear downtrend, right? Everyone's just selling. Let me just take out my drawing tool here. Everyone's just selling, 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 pull back, sell, pull back, sell. Okay, Now again, pay close attention to this area here. We pull back into SNR right there. We sell. Don't make a lower low. No lower lows. Again, no lower lows. We're sort of in a range format here, right? We pull back into the same area. We sold again, and then price breached up. This spot right here, this area and this area here proves to you that people are selling. We know people are selling because we are in what looks like a downtrend, at least based on this view right here. But we know at the back of our head, this is an uptrend, a big uptrend, right? A big uptrend. We want to make sure that we don't continue to sell, too long, too far. We know someone out there is looking for a buy. In the short term, our job here is to make sure that sellers are going to be trapped, and when they are trapped, we want to join the buys right there and right there as sellers are releasing. Okay, so again, the same exact scenario happened 3 years down the line, and that again became the low of 2023. That's again where things really started to pick off. Can you guys see it clearly now? Can you guys understand why things move the way they do? All right. The other thing I want to add here is the fact that, this trap that we're talking about right here, it's all happening at SNR. It's almost as though we are trend trading, but we are reversing a short-term downtrend. All right. So does that make sense? There's still a couple more examples I want to cover, but let me know if that makes sense, right? The whole idea here is not, to catch the top, to find the bottom. It's not about that, right? It's about understanding if you're trying to reverse something, you want to make sure there is context and there is power behind the reversal, because a short-term reversal is not going to help you make money in the market. You want to be able to spot the reversals that's going to give you, 50 pips, 100 pips. When you're getting in, things are going to perform. That's what your goal is in the market. You don't want to be in a position where you're just trying to catch 5 pips, 7 pips, making 0.3 R, 0.4 R. No, that's not what you want to do. It's okay to really just sit back, wait for a favorable situation, and then find those locations and then trade those reversals. That's your goal in the market. So when we look at the chart again here on Bitcoin, spotting this reversal could help you, really increase, really help your portfolio, right? Being able to spot situations like this, finding this reversal, getting in at this precise location, that's really going to help your investment. All right, I'm not just talking about day trading here. What I'm talking about here can be applied to any markets, any form, any time frame. Okay. Okay, I'm just looking at the comments here. Looking at the comments. Okay, cool. Again, if you guys are enjoying this video, make sure to like this video, because that's really gonna help out this channel. I would really appreciate your help. Just if you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't liked the video yet, I would really appreciate your support liking this video. I'm gonna show you one more example right here on cable. Right, this is GBP USD. Okay. So on GBP USD, we already know that this is a very short-term uptrend, right? Things are looking like it's going up, moving in an uptrend. Now, if I were to take out my drawing tool here, we are able to see prices going up, down, moving up, pull back into SNR, and then making another push up, pull back into this region here, and then we see some buying activity, right? We don't see it particularly here, but we see move up, and then we have a crash down. In this situation, Okay, who is trapped? It's very, very clear that anyone who is buying right around there, they are trapped on the wrong side of things. Any buy position is trapped, and if price were to pull back into this area, that's where a release is going to happen. Okay, that's exactly where the release is going to happen. Now, this right here is actually a trade that someone has taken, someone I know that has taken this trade. So it's a very good example. Remember the two things that we were talking about earlier. We want to make sure that we have the higher time frame context. On the higher time frame context, what do we have? We know we are in a downtrend. Okay, the main trend here is going down. What we're trying to reverse here is a short-term uptrend, which is here. Now, on the higher time frame, we have these support. It's holding the market right there, right? And we have breach down. So we have SNR involved. We have a downtrend involved. In situations like this, all you need to do is just go down to the lower time frame, look at the trend, okay, and make sure that the short-term uptrend reverses at that area. So if we were to take a sell, it will look something like this. Someone asked me about the exits. Usually what I would do is just getting out at the recent low. Now, you can get out further. And I'm going to talk about that later. But so far, this is what we will be doing for this particular trade. If you do something like this trade is going to look like that. Pull back into the area right around here where the buyers were trapped once. They release their trade and look at the price action that follows. Okay, straight to take profit in just a couple of candles, in just one, couple of swings. A very, very easy 2R trade. Now, for some of you guys who are more savvy out there, you're thinking, hold on a second. If I were to be really, really precise here, right? And I would say this is an uptrend. Let me just clear everything out. If I were to be really precise here and say this is a clear uptrend, I have SNR here. I have the next SNR here. And earlier you were talking about a scenario, a different type of scenario of people being trapped, right? You were saying, what if people are looking at this area and say, this right here being a buying action. See that push here from this hammer, and see this tail or this wick here from this shooting star. Those were buying action. People were actually buying, and then things crashed. If that's the case, if I know people were buying here just because it's a clear support and resistance, I have proof from the small little candles here. Is it okay if I take a release from here? Selling it at the top rather than selling it on this next level right there? What do you guys think? Is that a trade that one could take? Selling at position A rather than position B? Okay, some say A, some say B. No confirmation for A, but B. So here's the thing. All of you guys are saying the right things, right? If we sell here, right there, it's going to be a little bit unsafe, right? Because, we are still trying to turn an uptrend. Doesn't matter what time frame we're doing it on, we're trying to turn an uptrend. However, we have higher time frame context here, right? We know that this is not just a random spot in the market where we're trying to reverse the market. We know this area right here belongs to the higher time frame, and we have support from that higher time frame. The other thing to take note of is when we see price coming up like this, we do not need to sell immediately. We can see what happens next. On this next bar, if we focus on the next bar, we see a very, very clear rejection from this area. When that happens, that's enough confirmation for you to say, maybe, just maybe, the buyers are trapped and that's where I could get in. So you don't need to go in full size there if you're not confident, right? But if you want to stay on the safer side, getting in smaller is fine, or just wait for this next push on a pullback. That's where you can still resume your sell. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, in terms of the exits, a rule of thumb, which is something that I personally do is always getting out at the recent low. Okay, because essentially we're just doing this, right? If I draw your attention to my drawing tool, if I can get my marker right here. Okay, essentially we're doing this. Essentially we are trading an uptrend. Okay, what we are reversing is a downtrend which is visible here. This part here, if we expand that out, would look like this. And we are just trying to reverse this downtrend that's happening on the lower time frame. Time frame is a very tricky subject, which is why I'm gonna host another webinar around time frame. Okay, just look for the description below. If you guys are not yet registered, I'm gonna host another webinar around multi-time frame analysis. Okay, make sure you're registered because that's gonna be a webinar where we're gonna unpack a lot of information. But the point here is, what we're doing is reversing something that belongs to a higher time frame uptrend. If you wanna be safe, and if you do get in around areas like this, you wanna make sure that you always try to get out at the recent high, or if you're in a downtrend, right? If you're selling like this, and you see an uptrend on the lower time frame, you're trying to reverse the uptrend on the lower time frame, you want to get out at the recent low. That's always the safest approach. If you want to push it, if you want to push things a little bit further, what you can do is use the exact same thing that I have just said on the opposite side. If everyone thinks that the sell is happening, okay, if everyone thinks that the sell is going on, people are selling the market, try and guess what the exit strategy is for this situation. Okay, before I continue, just think about it. If we're selling and if we're not getting out at this low here, what you can do is wait for price to continue moving down. As long as it's in a downtrend, just continue moving down until you see that things are not selling anymore and this sort of price action happens. When that sort of price action happens, now you have the tool to understand, hold on, should I exit right here? Price was once here. I could have made a lot more. What could I do to get a little bit more out of this trade? You could wait for price to come down into this area to get out of your trade. Now this is very important. Okay, you're selling. Okay, if you're selling, put yourself in the position of a seller. You're right here. You saw the markets. You're seeing the trend continue the move towards the downside. You see it, lower lows and lower highs. Every time it comes back to SNR, things are just going down. You're happy. You're celebrating out with your girlfriend. You bought a Ferrari. Yada yada yada. Right? Things are looking good for the sell side. Things are looking good for the sell side, and then poof, things turn around like that. As soon as things turn around like that, what's your mentality going to be? Your mentality is again going to be, hold on, should I get out or should I wait a little bit more because I was once up a little bit higher on the profit, right? At this area here, your sell position was a lot more than where the sell position is, your P&L basically, right? So your thought process could be, anyone who's selling here, they are trapped. I am potentially trapped as well because I am also in the sell position here. Where's the best spot for me to get out? The best spot for you to get out is not going to be here anymore. The best spot for you to get out would be here, because now you understand. Now you understand that this is a spot where a lot of other sellers are also trapped and the buys could propel from this area, right? So now this is going to help with your exit strategy, getting out at this spot right here. So basically, the idea here is, if you're selling, sell, take majority of your position out at the recent low, wait for the trend to continue to go down. As soon as you see sellers being trapped, that's where you pay close attention. As things start to turn around, comes back to your release area right there, that's where you want to get fully out of the trade, because there's a high possibility, a high probability where things are going to fly. Does that make sense, everybody? That's all the time I have for today. And this is everything you need to know about reversal. Of course, there is still small little details here and there which I really want to cover, but I do not have the time to today. I will have a couple more webinars coming up, so make sure to register with the link below. Anytime there is going to be a new webinar that's going to be scheduled, I will get the team to notify you guys by email, so make sure to register with the link below. I hope you guys enjoyed this webinar. Okay, this is a full-blown webinar around reversal, and I'm going to cover more of these type of topics where I'm going to help you achieve consistent, profitable results. Everything based on what I have learned from my mentor, Naveen Prithani. Okay, anyway, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers, bye for now.